Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Combe. Delighted as always to be joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how are you?
Yeah, just another quiet day in Scottish football, Dan. Don't know if we'll get too much to talk about tonight.
Well, I mean, everything we do have to talk about tonight, we can talk about it with the one and only Michael Gannon, who joins us all the way from Celtic Park. Mick, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Well, he's
I don't know if it's because of this. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we
Hi,
lost
chaps.
you, but I think
Am
you're
I
back
okay?
now.
Sorry. No, I don't know if it's because of this kind of funny light or what's the events of the last kind of 24 hours, but I feel as though I'm trapped in some sort of fever dream here. It's been a bizarre, absolutely wild turn of events since kind of what 10 o'clock last night. Just finished up with Martin Neal and Sean Maloney, the new interim management team at Celtic. If you said that to me yesterday morning, I'd be white coats getting called, I think, and folk getting frog marched away. But yeah, this is where Celtic are right now. Martin Neal holding court today as he does. Great kind of form. He had a kind of a strange kind of mixture of kind of excitement and bewilderment about him. But I don't think he could quite believe either how things have turned about. Having been kind of wandering down King's Road for a coffee yesterday afternoon, and the phone goes, and all of a sudden, less than a day later, he's sitting in front of the assembled media as the Celtic manager again, 20 years after he left. It's been a heck of a kind of day or so, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, do you know the weird thing was, Michael? It was like he'd never actually been away. Yes, he looks a little bit older than he did last time around, but don't we all? But in terms of him controlling the room, being full of kind of his Martin O'Neillisms, the heavy on self-deprecation, light on good lines for journalists. He's one of these guys. You'll sit in that room for 20 minutes and you'll thoroughly enjoy the conversation, and then it's not until he's walked away that you go, actually, did we get in there, that guy? Did he say anything in there? But he knows how to control a press conference, that's for sure. He's lost none of that ability. It's now really a question of whether or not he can still do it inside the dressing room. I rather imagine he won't have lost it. But these are very different times. I mean, he's not walking into a dressing room full of Johan Mialbis and Neil Lennons and Chris Suttons and Bobo Baldis. It's a very different group of players, and it's a very different environment in the modern age. So that's going to be fascinating. Don't tell me we've just lost Mick.
We're having a little bit of signal troubles, but I'm sure we'll get Mick back in just a wee minute. In the meantime, Keith, we've got tons of comments coming in. One that I want to throw at you, right, because these opportunities for me don't come around too often with my predictions. A couple of people asking, will Keith apologise for shooting down Daniel after he said Brendan might leave last night? That's not from me, I promise.
Yeah, I will. I apologise to you, Daniel, because
Apology accepted.
well, but I will. But it's a qualified apology.
Aye.
Because, and we'll come round to this, and I'm sure Mick will want to have his say as well. A lot happened in the last 24 hours, which leads me to believe I'm not convinced this was how you would describe a typical resignation. A typical resignation is when someone decides he's had enough and it's time to go. I don't believe that's the headspace that Brendan Rodgers was in when all this happened last night. I think that I strongly suspect that he was almost blindsided by a move made by Dermot Desmond, and he was left in no other position where the only thing that he could do was resign. I don't believe that Brendan Rodgers would have chosen that course of action. It's my firm belief that there was an occasion right at the end of the transfer window where, as we said last night, I think he took a couple of days to process, think his position through, and then I think he kind of became resolved at that point. This is what it is. I'm not going to go back in the word that I gave to the Celtic fans, the promise that he made on day one. And so he decided to push on. And I think that a whole bunch of other circumstances have crept up on him there, and he was absolutely boxed into a position and given no wriggle room, and that's That's what led to resignation. I don't think it would have been through Brendan Rodgers' choice. I think there's a whole lot that's going on there, which is really quite distasteful in nature. I feel quite sorry for him in terms of how he's having to leave the place this time when it wasn't meant to end like this for Brendan Rodgers. And I think it was quite savage the way that he's been ultimately brought down. And I don't think it reflects well on Dermot Desmond, the board, um, you know, the board. Where's Michael Nicholson? He's the chief executive. He's more like a minister without portfolio. You know, where is he in the decision making process here? He's a non-contributor. So no wonder that to me just adds to and vindicates the protest against the board. The guys that are saying you guys are not fit for purpose. The way that Dermot Desmond was able to railroad that thing last night publicly, the way that he was able to eviscerate the character of Brendan Rodgers, none of it looks good. None of it reflects well in Celtic, and everything points to the very kind of fundamental issues that the fans have been expressing for so long about the sort of management structure and the culture behind the scenes at Celtic Park. I think it's a horrible look. I think that what you saw today was Martin O'Neill coming in, doing his Martin O'Neill shtick, and the fans will love that and they'll love to see him back. But it's been a really, for me, really tawdry episode. I don't know what Mick feels about that, but really unedifying for me what's happened over the last 24 hours.
So sorry to jump in, Mick, but sorry, just before that, we've got tons of comments, and while we're talking about Desmond, I'll just throw a couple of these at you. Desmond, this is from Davey. Desmond should be ashamed of himself after those comments about one of the most decorated managers in our history. Happy to see a change, though. Rodgers lost the dressing room. Mike says the statement from Desmond was embarrassing. He's a non-executive director and should not be making statements on behalf of the PLC. He's shown Nicholson to be the puppet he is.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I think it's been pretty unedifying, the whole process. I think I'm not particularly surprised that it's come to this point, but the way it's escalated and ended was kind of shocking, really. I think there's been a clear kind of a slow breakdown of relations behind the scenes at Celtic. I think you go back to even towards the tail end of last year, getting into the summer. I think Brendan lost faith in a lot of the recruitment, and I think Brendan Rodgers, I think, he can be high maintenance. He can be demanding. I don't think he's probably the easiest manager to deal with, but that's what you get when you get an elite manager. They set high demands. They expect the best. If you don't get them, they can make life a little bit awkward. I think Celtic's gradually the relationship between obviously Dermot and Dermot Desmond and Rodgers has been eroded gradually, then spectacularly. And I think over the summer it got worse and worse. And then at this point in time, I think after the kind of whole transfer window and the final days of it, the shambles, the comments from Rodgers at the end of it, the kind of behind the scenes backstabbing briefings, at that point, a separation was inevitable. It was a case of when. I think at that point, Rodgers was adamant he wanted to see out the season. I think that was his plan, just to dig in and just see out the season. I think it was getting, obviously, but it started to affect everything at the club, from top to bottom and on the pitch. So I also think if the statement came out Monday night saying there'd been a partner in the ways and that was it, the first statement, I think a lot of people might have thought, you know what, I think it was maybe the right time. Things had gone a bit stale, wasn't working, the relationships are broken down. It's best to nip in the bud now and wish everybody the best. I think at that point, I don't think Brendan Rodgers' reputation would have been too damaged at that point. I think he had 2 great seasons, wasn't working. Wish him all the best. He'd done his best. It wasn't working. I think that's what happens in football. I think the follow-up statement from Dermot Desmond was completely unnecessary. Even if he believes it and thinks that, I don't think it was necessary to air the dirty linen in public and eviscerate a guy in public. I think it was uncalled for. A few contradictions in there as well. Things about spending every penny and one man be bigger than the club. Come on, all that stuff. I don't think Rodgers was sabotaging himself. There's no benefit of doing that. He wanted to leave he wanted to do his 3 years, leave on horseback into the sunset, go back in 10 years with a lounge named after him. That's what he wanted, not this. This is not what his vision when he come back. So I say it's a bit unedifying. it doesn't put the club in a great light, does it? I mean, you see, you're watching the kind of news footage, the sports news channels last night, and people with disbelief, because this is not how clubs tend to end. I mean, regardless how badly a relationship breaks down, this is not the kind of done thing to eviscerate a guy in public. A guy who has the second most successful manager in the club's history, who's provided such highs through the years. I think he deserved better, to be perfectly honest with you. I say, regardless of how things have gone behind the scenes, I think he deserved better than that. And I don't have a piece today. I mean, if you're a kind of potential manager, I know managers will do pretty much anything to get a job, but if you're looking at that, you think, that's a guy who's won 11 trophies out of 13 and gets filleted in public when the way out.
Yeah.
Maybe make a few think twice. I don't know. Perhaps not, because managers will take jobs and think they're going to be infallible anyway, so maybe not. But yeah, it's just the whole thing has been far messier than it had to be, I think.
Yeah, listen, that wasn't it was it's a character assassination.
Aye. Yeah.
You know, it wasn't so much of a statement as a gangland hit, and how and we understand the kind of thinking behind it. The thinking behind it is that, you know, if we can blame everything here on Brendan, blame it all on Brendan, then maybe the fans will back off and everybody can get back on board. And that's I think he's completely misread the room with it. I think it was brutal in nature. It was vicious in its delivery. It was also crass and vulgar, jaw-droppingly unprofessional. And as I said, I really do think it points to the structural sort of issues that have brought the fans, you know, to onto the cobbles, so to speak, in terms of this rebellion, this ongoing rebellion against the club. I think it could backfire spectacularly on Dermot Desmond, because I can see the sort of militant element of the Celtic support reacting more angrily to this development than they were in the first issue. And I think Mick's right. They might not have necessarily come rushing out to defend Brendan Rodgers if a decision had been taken, but it's the manner in which this has been taken. And it's starting to feel as if Dermot Desmond has no respect for the club or for protocol or for even good corporate governance. And he's using Celtic like a plaything right now. And I think that's insulting to the supporters. And I can see this not playing the way that he thought it would. I think he's misread the room. I think if he was thinking by doing this, by taking Brendan Rodgers off at the knees, then that corrects everything. I strongly suspect it will go a different way. And I'll also be really interested to hear when, and I'm guessing that Brendan Rodgers, I think the kind of way that is usually done these days, it will be a statement that will come out through the LMA in England. And it'll be carefully legaled and vetted, because there's all sorts of possible ramifications for what just went on last night. But I think it'll be really interesting and instructive as to, you know, what exactly did go on. Because listen, I've got information and I'm very confident in it. Late yesterday evening, Brendan Rodgers was still behaving like the manager of Celtic, and was given no indication. He was taking and receiving text messages from people, and there was no indication in any of these conversations that he was actually, while he was pinging the phone with one finger or one hand, he was writing a resignation letter with the other.
And sorry,
something smells off about the whole thing.
Martin O'Neill said he was approaching the afternoon as well. It's worth throwing in.
Yeah. So moves were I mean, it feels like, I mean, it's phraseology that is Kennedy's resignation, but it feels more like constructive dismissal or deconstructive dismissal. Really,
exactly
because it gets to a point where it's so broken that it has to be a part of the ways. It'd be interesting to see next year accounts if there's a payout to the manager, because if he's resigned, he won't get a payout. That'd be tucked in there somewhere, so that'd be interesting. But
how can Dermot Desmond? How can you come from that position where? Listen, let me tell you something. That statement wasn't rattled up in just 5 minutes. The way that my 1,000-word spread had to be last night. that a lot of time and effort and care and precision had gone into the exact detailed wording of that statement.
It was really clever, actually, the statement, because you're talking about
but what I'm saying is, if he's done this in advance, then on what basis are you waiting for Brendan Rodgers to actually tender a resignation? Don't be ridiculous. If that's how strongly you feel about the guy, then it's not a resignation issue. This is you deciding that this guy isn't fit for your football club. And, why on earth would you wait for Brendan Rodgers to decide that he'll leave on his terms? That's not what happened yesterday. And it's insulting people's intelligence to suggest anything otherwise than that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, I thought some of it's quite cleverly worded. Things like they expressed that they were keen to discuss a new contract. Rodgers said, "I've not been offered a new contract." Well, both comments
can
are
be
true.
true.
Both can be true. Things like Brendan Rodgers authorised all signings and departures. That could also be true. It doesn't mean he rates these guys, but things like Adamida, can we sell him? Yes, if we get a replacement, didn't get a replacement. So he did authorise the sale, didn't get a replacement. Just clearly, I actually don't think Brendan Rodgers' public comments were that harsh against the club. I think some fans thought he didn't go far enough with his criticism of the board.
He was actually accused by some of trying to protect him, Mick.
He said at one point, Mick, that the board bleed Celtic. He kind of stuck up for him.
I mean, Chris Mackay's out dishing out soup on Christmas Day and all that stuff. I mean, it was quite. I mean, it was. I thought it could be more. Listen to the guy who's got 800 plus games as a manager, been all around the place at top level. He speaks. I mean, out. He feels he needs to. I don't think he was. I mean, I think the feeling is from Dermot is, well, you know it is now from the statement that Rodgers has put a bullseye in their back with his comments, that he's passed the buck on to them for the failure of the transfer window. Whereas there's so many facets involved in transfers that's not, and they can't pass the buck. Say everything that's wrong at Celtic is Brendan Rodgers' fault. I mean, again, that's preposterous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Things like failing to negotiate for players and deals falling down and players end up costing more money than you think they're going to be. That's not a Brendan Rodgers problem. These are issues of not getting players in time for the Champions League. I think I accept that I think Brendan Rodgers should have done better with what he's got in terms of the Kayak game and Dundee's and Hearts and all that stuff. Yeah, I take that point. But you can also say that the transfer window was a shambles. And everyone's complicit. You can't just say that he's to blame or they're to blame. It's just an unholy mess. I thought it was completely unnecessary. I mean, throwing the guy under the bus was out of order, frankly.
There was a malevolence about it, Mick, and I don't think it sits well with anybody.
It was spiteful. It was spiteful. That's the thing. It looked spiteful, didn't it? I think that's what shocked. I think that's what shocked everyone. And by the way, not just everyone in this little goldfish bowl we operate in. Everyone. I mean, you've seen stuff throughout the UK, thinking, "Wow, that's not something you see every day."
Yeah.
A majority shareholder using the club's communications to absolutely eviscerate the manager on the way to the door. It just doesn't happen.
I know it's a bit of a footnote as well, guys, but Craigie is one of a few people mentioning John Kennedy. Obviously, he's left as well. 27 years of service at Celtic. I mean, that's kind of went under the radar a little bit in the sense that if it was all Rodgers' fault, why is Kennedy gone as well?
Well, I don't think
it's not even official yet, is it? I don't think it's even official yet, is it? That was touched on today with Martin Neal and Sean Maloney. They touched on it today. A great servant. I mean, obviously he's obviously standing by Brendan Rodgers and also kind of departing the club. But again, it's a guy who's been a great servant. Deserved more mention, really, didn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
I think that's really interesting. If he's on the inside of the thing, right? He's got a better view than all of us on what's been done and said inside the football club. And if John Kennedy, a guy that's given 27 years of devoted service to the football club, feels on a point of principle that he has to walk, I think that tells you a lot about what may have gone on over the course of the last 24 hours and what the people that witnessed it think of it.
Our pal in the comments, Gianni Mick, says that he is waiting, if I can find it, awaiting the tannoy, saying, Michael Gannon, you've been evicted from Celtic Park. Please leave the big green house before you do get thrown out.
Wouldn't be the first or last time.
Before you do get thrown out, obviously you're with Martin Neal and Sean Maloney earlier on today. Look, in purely football terms, is this going to help Celtic turn their form around, do you think?
Listen, I think the same structural problems are going to be there. I think clearly Martin Neal was the kind of figurehead, but Sean Maloney will be the guy who knows more about the squad and perhaps will take more of a kind of leadership role. I mean, Martin Neal will admit that himself. He will know less than Maloney right now. You get the feeling that it would have been Maloney taking charge in the interim if it had been easier to sell that to supporters. Maybe that's a harder sell, or maybe that's the perception from the board. It's a harder sell, whereas Martin O'Neill coming back, he's got the kind of feel-good factor of a returning kind of hero. Do you think Sean Maloney's going to have a big influence on it in the short term? I mean, listen, how long is going to be the short term? I'd imagine that Celtic will try and get to the international break. Was it 4 games until then? And it gives them a fortnight's breathing space to get a new man in. And listen, both of them said today that it's not going to be them in the long term. It's not going to be the case of they win the 4 games, they're going to stick around and be the long-term solution. I think both of them have been quite adamant that's not going to be the case. Martin's also saying he's not going to have he doesn't expect to have any input into who the new manager is. He's got his opinions, but he doesn't expect to be asked for them. So Celtic are now in this holding pattern, but they've got big games. They've got a Premier Sports Cup semi-final against Rangers on Sunday. Listen, tomorrow night against Falkirk's huge, given the fact they're 8 points behind the league. And there's Europa League, a must-win game in Denmark next week as well. I think it's Hibs then before the international break. So a huge kind of week and a half, 2 weeks for Celtic in terms of their season. And now it's this interim management team. I say it does kind of beg our belief, really, to be in this situation. Martin O'Neill's not been in the dugout for, what, 6 years, is it? I mean, is it Forest? 2019 was his last time he's in management, so it's been a while. So like I say, we'll rely on Maloney, I think, especially early on. Maloney took training, obviously, this morning before O'Neill came up today. But it's a great step into the unknown. I mean, people are joking that Celtic were playing 3-5-2 tomorrow night. Big Dave Murray playing up front. But we just don't know, because the same problems with injuries, same personnel, same gaps in the squad. So they're going to have to work a kind of some magic to try and restore stability, morale, confidence, the lot, and find a way to score goals, because this team doesn't have any goals in it. So they've got 24 hours to figure something out.
Mick, as I say before you get evicted, we'll let you get up the road. Thank you very much, as always, for joining us in the Hotline Live. Much appreciated.
No worries. I might go down there, top of my tan, actually. Get your sunbed down there.
That's what you do, actually. That's a good idea, right?
Get a bit of colour while I'm here.
Mick, as always, thank you very much.
Take it easy, guys.
Cheers, Mick.
Cheers, Mick.
I do like when Mick's on, Keith. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah. What he was actually meaning was he wants to put his barnet under one of those lights and see if it does the same trick as it does to the grass.
But our fingers are crossed for him.
Mick famously told me he has a great line just a few years ago. He says, "I think I've only got 12 haircuts left."
We've got tons of comments coming in, Keith, as you'd expect. But our trusty producer Henrik was actually out today at Celtic Park, chatting with some of the fans and getting their take firsthand. Shall we hear what they had to say?
Henrik and Martin O'Neill were back at Celtic Park today.
They were, aye.
This is a fever dream.
Well, let's hear how we got on.
I'll see you in a minute. Thank you.
I feel like it was going to come eventually, but I would have thought he would have stayed at least till the semi-final against Rangers, then see what happened after that. But I feel like from both sides there's two sides to every story, so I'm not sure yet. I believe some of the stuff the board might be saying, then Rodgers himself, eventually when he comes out, I'll see what he says. But
I think it's a difficult one for the for the club overall. I don't think it's a great look for Brendan Rodgers. I don't think it's a great look for the board either. But I don't think two of them could come out very good. I think it was expected, but still unexpected at the same time. But happy for it, to be honest. Welcome the change. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night and at the weekend, more importantly.
I thought he would have lasted till the Rangers game, then maybe left after that. It's just a shock he's left.
I think it's disgraceful. They had no right to let him go. I think the boards are done. They need to go because they've let the club down, they've let the fans down, they've let Brendan Rodgers down especially, and especially with that post that Desmond put on yesterday was a disgrace.
Who would you like to see next as a permanent manager?
Do you know what, I might get a bit of thingy for this, but I'd love to have Ange back. I would. I miss Ange Ball. Absolutely love to have Ange back.
The Bodo Glimt manager, he looks good. Or the old Borussia Dortmund manager, I think he's really good, but there's someone fresh.
I'm hoping maybe Craig Bellamy, for me, I think it'll be difficult to bring him in, because I think that if they qualify for the championships in America, I think it'll be difficult. But if they don't qualify, then I think it's a possibility, and I think it'll appease the fans as well, because he played for Celtic as well. And
if I could, Martin O'Neill, or if I think everyone would agree with me, Ange Postecoglou.
Maybe Ange Postecoglou or Marco Rose for the gelling manager. I'd like to see someday now, probably. That's what I would like to see, yeah.
Celtic fans there, Keith, right? If it's okay, I'll run through a few of these comments. First of all, Rangers Easy OK says, is his actual name Henrik? No way, man. He actually is called Henrik.
Yeah, we do have genuinely a Swedish guy called Henrik who's our producer.
We'll get him on one week. Right, let me read a few of these out. Tom says, only thing Dermot missed was calling Rodgers a traitor and guilty of treason. Baza says, any manager will do well to get performances out of their team right now. They are shocking. Your loyal Muppet says, Martin's too old and out of touch to manage Celtic. Their club is in tatters, and after his comments on Rangers, I wonder what pressure he'll be under if we beat them in the semis. David says, Kennedy was well paid for doing his job. I've had 60 years of putting money into this club. Thank you, and move on. It's life, guys. Paul Brady says, if Dermot Desmond said is true, why wasn't Rodgers sacked? And this last one from Rangers is okay. The statement was absolutely wild. I've never seen anything like that from any club in Europe in my lifetime. And bear in mind, we used to be called Statement FC. And then the only other comments, Keith, that are coming in are people, as you saw in the clip there, asking about the next manager. I mean, Craig is one of many people saying someone contact Ange to find out if he's interested. And obviously attention now turns to who will be the long-term successor. I know you hate odds, but there's the latest odds. Kieran McKenna is actually favourite as it stands right now.
Yeah, and there might be something in that. I think there's an obvious link there. I think that Dermot Desmond might be able to influence that one. I think that Martin O'Neill's comments were about a younger coach. Kieran McKenna's 39. So that he would certainly fit the kind of profile. Ange, someone that's very, very close to Ange in Australia told me a long time ago that one thing Ange never does is he never goes back. And I think that was at a time where there was previous speculation regards a move to Celtic, a return. And this guy knows him inside out. He says he would be astonished because that's just a rule that Ange has got. Now, rules are there to be broken and changed and manipulated, and off the back of what's happened at Spurs and Nottingham Forest, if he's feeling a bit bruised and he wants a bit of love again, he could certainly find it in Glasgow. But that would require a major sort of a shift in his thought pattern and how he sees his career going. Now, again, the consecutive bumps at Spurs and Nottingham Forest may have forced that into a sort of rethink. But I think that would be a long shot, plus the fact the sort of wages he's been earning down there. He would be in the longer shot, although I can see why it makes perfect sense. Kieran McKenna, on the other hand, it would be somebody new. I don't know. Do you know what? He worked miracles to take Ipswich up through the divisions, get them into the Premier League, and I think that has to be, centrally considered. But I do come back to the fact I've sat here and I've slaughtered Rangers for saying that Russell Martin's CV was good enough to entitle him entry level into the negotiations for the Rangers job on the back of being relegated from the Premier League. Now, Kieran McKenna and Russell Martin are two very different animals with different CVs, and Kieran McKenna, come up through, as I said, I think a couple of promotions to get them there and did a better job in the Premier League than Russell Martin did. But I do feel as if we're in danger of moving into this parallel universe whereby that's okay now. That's seen as that could still be an exciting, I was going to say 5 years ago, less than that. Would Rangers or Celtic look at guys that couldn't hack it, that got relegated from England's Premier League and think, yeah, he's the guy for us?
No,
So
sure.
that raises a question there.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I know that Martin O'Neill, and he's very clever in the way that he does it. No, it's absolutely not. This is just interim, and if we don't get the result, we could be out by Thursday, and that's that's disappointing for Sean. Which was interesting because that's disappointing for Sean because I think he thought we were going to be here for a month. So that seems to be him alluding to the most probable timeline. But who's to say? By the way, if Martin O'Neill was to go in, get an absolute bounce, the stadium's buzzing, they're all singing his name, and then he goes, I'm talking tomorrow night against Falkirk, gets 3 points. Hearts have got a perilous away trip to Paisley. Who knows how that one goes? Martin O'Neill then goes in against Danny Roll at Hampden against Rangers. And can you imagine? He kind of puts him down. How the Celtic fans might respond to that, how the momentum might start to build. And at the end of Martin O'Neill's press conference today with the broadcast, he was asked a question about the final line in his autobiography, which is he finds he's got an addiction for football and he can't shake it. I wonder how that addiction, what a couple of results, a few results like that, what might do to feed that addiction and to make him think, wow, is this where I'm supposed to be at this point in my life? I don't know. It's a long shot, but who knows?
Yeah.
There's no way of knowing with any certainty because this time, 24 hours ago, I'm sat here saying to you, there's no way that Brendan will quit.
That's Scottish football, isn't it? Some of the comments coming in. Green Machine says, dark horse for me is Alex Neil, wee Coatbridge lad and a big Celtic fan. Bluey, Kevin Muscat. That'd be funny, wouldn't it? John says Ange would have nothing to gain or learn by going back to Celtic. Dennis says, I said for months, Scott Brown, put money on him this morning at 25-1. Paul says he likes McKenna, no Ange return. And Craigie, I think jokingly, says McInnes. But it's going to be interesting, whatever happens.
Yeah.
Imagine
McInnes,
that'd be funny.
I think Paddy Power also put out a betting list for the runners and riders today, and it featured Steven Gerrard at 6-1.
At 6-1?
Yep, 6-1.
Bloody hell. Oh well. Well, look, we could talk.
Now, Paddy Power are experts in marketeering and that sort of stuff. But yeah, that was an easy headline to grab.
Well, they managed to get their name mentioned now on the best football show.
There you go. What, Paddy?
That's it.
Free bet, please.
Mark is one of a few saying Nutson as well. John McGlynn is another one from Davy. But we could talk about Celtic all night, Keith, but I feel like we should talk about Rangers now because Danny Rule had his his press conference today. Shall we hear a little bit what he had to say?
Yeah, his first press conference of today, Tuesday.
First of today for Tuesday.
Okay.
Let's hear what he had to say.
Yeah, we are still looking. We have a short list now. I think this is important, and I'm also very clear what is the profile, what should be. For me, it's important that maybe a next assistant coach help me as well also in the content. It's not just that we have a name. I think that should be the combination. This is very important to understand the league. In best case, it's a former player. I said this before. And the next point is that he can help me really also from the content on the pitch because then you have a great setup. Yeah, I think the first challenge is that we get the wins in a row. I think we never did this now in the season to get wins by wins, and if you do this 2 wins in a row, 3 wins in a row, then you can climb and you can close gaps. If you win a game, play draw, you lose a game, then it's difficult to close gaps. But I think this is the most important thing now to understand. A win, next win, next win, next win, and then we can look to some point in the season to the table and then we see where we are.
Danny, how would you summarise your first week here at the club? So obviously you arrived last Monday, presented to the media Tuesday, fly to Norway on Wednesday, you play a game, come back, first game at Ibrox, now you're preparing for your third opposition in 5 days. Yeah. How would you say it's been?
Yeah, at first it's good. I see you more than my wife. Yeah, this is the first impression. No, of course, guys, it's part of our business. It was up and down, I must say this. When I arrived, you're exciting, you want to see the team, you go to the first European game, then you feel straight, it's a challenge. Then you have a good game at home, you take a win, you know straight, okay, you can try this maybe 1 hour, and after this you go straight again back on the computer to prepare the next game, looking forward, and this is now what we continue until Christmas, I think, every 3 days, and it's a high demanding, but every 3 days to win a game, it's also a good feeling.
Last one, Raman, just last one.
Can I just ask if you've made a decision on adding to your coaching staff? A couple of names have been mentioned.
A cliffhanger there about Danny Rowe.
Is that the old EastEnders theme tune?
Well, look, you and I know we're completely enveloped by the Brendan Rodgers, Martin Neal stuff today. Two guys that were actually at the press conference was our esteemed colleagues, Andy Newport and Scott McDermott. Shall we hear what they had to say? Their thoughts on today's...
I love to hear their thoughts on whatever it is.
Me too, absolutely. Let's hear what they had to say.
How did you think he was sounding ahead of his first domestic away trip?
Sounded quite happy after Sunday, obviously, Andy. I don't think he'd have been expecting a few questions about Celtic today. I think he was ready for them, and he didn't want to get into events across the city as hard as a few of the media boys tried. But no, I think he was quite happy. I think he said a couple of times, didn't he? He's noticed smiles back on faces in terms of the players and the staff. It's amazing what just a routine home win can do. One of the other key things he said, for me, even speaking to that, was, I don't know if you've picked up on it, he said that I can sense there's a belief there that they believe in what we're doing.
Already.
And when you compare and contrast that with how it felt like the players were under Russell Martin, then it's that's a big change. And if Danny Rowe's right, if these players, even in this early stage, have bought into his ideas and what he's trying to do, then that's a massive positive for him. And you would think it would lead to far better results, far better performances.
I mean, obviously the big debate today, the big talking point today is events across the city of Celtic Park. I mean, as you say, we all tried our best to get him there to go into that. But in terms of, what does this mean for Rangers? What does it mean for the prospects next week? He tried to shy away from that. His big message right now is, I think it was yourself asking about, looking at the table, if they can get another result at Easter Road, what would that do for their title prospects? And he's basically when it's one game at a time, isn't it? There's a long way for Rangers to go before they can start talking, looking that kind of far ahead.
Because of the start they've had, Andy, that's all they can do. I tell you what the shenanigans at Celtic means for Rangers, and it's got nothing to do with Danny Rowe, but it should fill everyone at this club with a huge amount of regret over how they've started this season, because what an opportunity it would have been for them. Yankee Celtic going for 5 in a row. We said at the start of the season, obviously Russell Martin coming in as a new manager, it was meant to be a new dawn at Rangers after the takeover, and I think we were right in saying we felt Celtic might not quite be at their best and there might be issues there, especially the manager getting into their last year's contract. It felt like all wasn't well, and there was a real opportunity for Rangers to go and take advantage of that. And you look at the start they've had and where they are in the league, it's criminal that they've not taken advantage of that. And Danny Rowe's having to deal with the repercussions of that. But as you say, I mean, he's got to just try and take small steps at a time. He said it himself after the Kelly game. It felt like a small step forward. I think he'll get a far bigger test at Easter Road on Wednesday night. But you're right, he knows, and it's interesting again, he actually talks about the table. Previous managers, Philippe Clement and Russell Martin, when you mentioned the table, it was like an alien word to them. No, he didn't want to discuss it. It was as if it didn't matter. We know in Glasgow the table matters even after week 1 of a campaign. So Danny Rowe's looked at it. He knows the importance of getting wins on the board. They're so far behind that all they can do is just try and tick these games off. And after getting the win on Sunday, I think if they can go to Easter Road tomorrow night and get a victory against a Hibs team that's in decent form, has got really good players, especially attacking players, the home form's pretty good, if Rangers can go there and win, I think that's a massive step for Rangers and Danny Rowe before the semi-final at the weekend.
I mean, we're talking about the phrase he keeps using, a small step. And for me, that's all he can do right now, just because of the schedule that he stepped into. I mean, he spoke about he's seen the likes of yourself and myself more than he's seen his life so far already. I mean, it's going to be like this all the way to Christmas and beyond, even into January. He's got game after game, midweek Saturday. He's not going to have time to make the big sweeping changes. He's not going to have the time in the training ground to really drill his team into a new style of play. I mean, that's going to be the thing that's going to be a limiting factor for him, isn't it?
It is, but the good thing about him is he acknowledges it. No, he's not sitting here saying it's going to be difficult, we're going to need time to implement things, and no, we might need to suffer pain before the results come. He's not interested in that. He's been really positive. He's talking about the game tomorrow night as one Rangers need to go and win, because he knows the nature of the table at the minute and how far behind they are. They can't afford any more slip-ups. I mean, it's that simple. We're not sitting here saying Rangers are still going to be title contenders. They're a long way for that at the minute, but you just never know if he can gather a wee bit of momentum, get positive results. We spoke earlier on the day about the slight change in formation. Obviously, if they just happen to stumble across a system which suits these players, they spoke about it at the press conference today, how he wants to be really flexible. Spoke about hybrid players. I know that's a bit hipster for us.
Of course, there are some on. Keep carrying on, go.
But he can see something in them. I think he's got an idea. I think he's got an idea in his head of what he wants to do. Even looking ahead to January, I think he's already recognised which areas need to be strengthened. So, no, it has to be small steps. But at the same time, he's not interested in give me time and we'll see where we are in 2 or 3 months. He knows he needs to win now, and that's the standard here.
He's not talking about needing time. He is talking about giving players a chance. I think I asked him about his plans for January, if he was going to, if he had people he's worked with before that he could help him out, networks that he has, if he was going to, focus in leagues and places he'd worked before, in terms of bringing in guys, and he sort of dismissed that because he was more talking about, the guys here need to be given an opportunity, and I think you can see that already. I mean, you've seen Danilo at the weekend, comes in for the cold, given an opportunity, a fresh slate, and takes it, and I think, there's a lot of guys here who haven't performed anywhere near to the level expected of them, but there's also a lot of guys here that probably don't think they've had the chance to show what they can do this season, and that's important just to give them, a wee bit of just, encouragement to think that there's still something for them here to achieve.
I think it has to do that. I think every manager will do that when they get into a club, irrespective of what's been said about the group for the squad of players before he's arrived. I think every manager likes to properly assess them in training, assess them in games, assess them in different positions. Look, I think we agree the recruitment has been poor in the summer in terms of the standards that Rangers need and the quality they need. However, there's no doubt that there will be some players who have played way below their level so far for whatever reason. And every manager, including Danny Rowe, will think, once he gets working with them, he can improve them. I said to you earlier in the day, Mikey Moore, for instance, really talented young player, hasn't shown anything near his level yet, I don't think. But maybe just slightly different position, new coach, new ideas might just spark something in him. And he's just one example. I'm sure there'll be others. There's no doubt Rangers will strengthen again in January, and Danny Rowe will have his ideas.
Because as Yusuf Chamiti gets his goal at the weekend, a long wait for that, 903 days I think it is, since his last senior goal. He gave a wee bit back to the fans with his wee sort of, how do we call it, a wee sort of shut up. Obviously Danny Rowe, he was asked about that, didn't seem overly concerned about it, but he's definitely had a word with him already.
It was interesting that he addressed it. I kind of half expected him not to say much on it and almost try and kind of dismiss it, but I think it's a good sign for the manager that he's noticed it, whether that's come from maybe the captain, James Tavernier, experienced guys in the dressing room, maybe like John Suter, Jack Butland, people like that. I'm not sure, but the manager, he's addressed it today and has been fairly blunt in saying he's had to have a word with Yusuf Sharmiti, because listen, I don't think the celebration went down well. I said to you last week, Asgard did similar when he scored his first goal against Dundee United. It was kind of cut in the ears, and then Sharmiti, he scores. And listen, it's emotional for him. He's not scored in a long time, certainly at club level. He has had a wee bit of stick, people questioning him. Big transfer fee, a big weight on his shoulders here at Rangers. So to get that goal and a victory, you can understand why these emotions might get the better of him. But as we've said before, these players have got a long way to go before they can start telling the fans to quieten down with any criticism. They've done nothing in a Rangers jersey. They're sitting, sixth in the league? Yeah. I've lost track now where they're on the table. It's been so bad. So many points behind. So I think it's clever for Danny Rowe just to have a quiet word in his ear. And I'm sure when Sharmiti scores, or if Sharmiti scores a game, we'll see a different celebration.
In the comments, Keith Davey says...
Comments were brutal, Dan, that you were putting up.
Davey says, I'm waiting for the lights.
Who was writing them? Dermot Desmond?
Well, actually, let's go back to them, because, at the minute, Davey says waiting for the lights to go out here. Thankfully, we get through that without any more technical hitches. But I won't have my... look, Mark said they were Winston and Isa from Still Game. Ronald said Jack and Victor. Ewan
Why are you
said...
doing this twice? Why are you doing this twice? You want the boys to come back in the show?
I'm trying to defend them. I think that's an outrageous besmirching their characters. Anyhow. Tomorrow night, Keith, the guys talking about Hibs versus Rangers. Do you think Rangers
Pinky in the brain.
I don't even know what Pinky in the brain looks like.
It's cartoon characters.
That's it. Well, there's tomorrow night's games. Again, will Rangers get a result in the capital?
Will Rangers get a result in the capital? Unlikely. I think there's too much work still to be done. I know the tails will be up after a win at the weekend, not before time. But I look at them. I still think they're really weak defensively. I don't think that Danny Rowe has had enough time to really drum his style of play and his demands into the players. I think it'll be remaining a work in progress. Hibs are the opposite of a work in progress. They were a work in progress this time 12 months ago. They've come through it. They've got some frailties at the back sometimes. I usually find when Jack Iredale's not in the starting 11, that's when they surface. But in terms of what they've got up top, you could make an argument right now that Hibs and Hearts, maybe even Aberdeen, have got better players in the final third than Rangers and Celtic. And I think Hibs certainly come into that category. So, if Rangers can get away with a draw, that probably isn't a bad result in terms of what Danny Rowe's trying to do, but it's a terrible result in terms of if they've got to try and prove that they've got an outside chance of getting themselves back into contention. They really do need a win, but I think it might be too much of an ask. It is baby steps right now for Danny Rowe, and I don't think he's had the time to get Rangers battle ready for what awaits them at Easter Road. Yeah.
Bluey in the comments says, are we doing a late show tomorrow night? We are indeed. The Horlicks pyjamas special.
Joy.
We're going, I think for our usual just after 10 o'clock.
Just after 10. Okay, nice and flexible.
That's
the Danny Rowe approach.
If everyone in the Premiership could listen up and not sack their manager or resign or whatever, that would be great. We'd really appreciate it so we can focus on the games tomorrow.
Well, if that was to happen, I'd need to write 1,000 words simultaneously doing the show. So, I can't guarantee my full undivided attention there, Daniel.
If anyone can do it, Keith Jackson can. That's for sure. On that note, that brings us to the end of Tuesday night's packed Hotline Live with Record Sport.
It was packed tonight, wasn't
it? It was packed, I know.
Bonus edition.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for all the comments. The comments were absolutely brilliant as always. Thank you so much to Michael Gannon at Celtic Park, and of course to Andy Newport and Scott McDermott at the Rangers Training Centre. Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, I look forward to tomorrow night's late edition. I'll see you then. And by the way, you just know there's going to be more drama. Whatever it is, wherever it is, there will be more drama tomorrow. It's just a certainty. It's what we do.
That's it. Absolutely. And we hope you can join us then at 10 p.m. tomorrow. Thanks for watching.